Are you looking for the mental edge? I want to share with you a concept that has been quite popular lately. You can find more information about that, so stick around to the end. I'll give you some specific actionable resources you can utilize to make your own decision. But what I'm talking about is cold exposure. Cold exposure has been shown to have an impact on memory and learning in a number of ways. And I want to just cover a few points about how this is theorized to help those improve performance, test taking, and memory. So the first thought is that the cold exposure has been shown to improve memory consolidation. That's how your body takes information in, retains it, compiles it, compacts it, and makes it available for recall. The cold exposure is felt to stabilize this process in the brain. One of the theories is that because cold, depending on the temperature, but it's a sort of a shock to the system, it produces a stress hormone called noradrenaline, and this helps with attention, memory, and formation of memories. So when a person's more alert, obviously we oftentimes try to do this through caffeine or other mechanisms, it can help with the overall process of learning. There are even some studies that have shown that cold exposure can improve working memory and executive function. So working memory is basically like the front part of your recall. Like if you take a series of numbers, you're trying to remember someone's phone number, you put that into your working memory, and then you're able to recall that. That doesn't translate to long-term memory, but it gives you the ability to process information and then decide based on what you're trying to accomplish with your study session about whether this is just a temporary thing or a long-term memory that needs to be stored and recalled for test taking in the future. Obviously, being alert when you're learning and studying and preparing for a test is critical, and that often translates as a secondary downstream effect of enhanced cognitive performance when it comes time to take that test and get the score that you're trying to get. One of the other mechanisms that it works is by increasing the activity in a specific structure in the brain, the hippocampus. Hippocampus is important. It's a very tiny, tiny structure deep inside the brain, and we know that, for example, alcoholics oftentimes have scarring of the hippocampus, and that's why there's confabulation, which is making up stories or memories or false memories in alcoholics because they've damaged that part of the brain and they can't retain and recall information. But cold exposure is theorized to increase the activity in this critical structure inside the brain to help with long-term memory storage. You can also increase the production of something called nerve growth factor. There are a variety of growth factors inside the body, and this protein actually is believed to help stimulate the growth and survival of neurons inside the brain. The corollary to this that I want to point out here before I forget is that sleep is a critical aspect of all this. With sleep deprivation and the all-nighters that many of us pulled in college or med school, that oftentimes will hamper the learning process. There's a function of the brain where it sort of washes itself and cleans itself during sleep, and that's the glymphatic system. And to shortchange sleep, thinking that you can stay up all night and pack in these last little bits of nuggets of information is really just sort of shooting yourself in the foot, essentially. It also has been shown that cold exposure improves consolidation. So this is where memories are sort of strengthened and stored in the brain. If you can think of old-fashioned record where tracks are laid down with grooves, and the grooves need to be smooth and consistent to get the quality of sound that you want. The same sort of process occurs in the brain with memory and learning. So by allowing consolidation and enhancing these tracks or these pathways, if you will, it definitely has a potential to help improve overall performance, memory, retention, all those things. So I don't want to belabor the point here. Obviously, do your own diligence. Not everybody is suitable for cold exposure. There's certain health conditions and pre-existing things that should raise caution. Obviously, talk to your personal physician if you're thinking about spending a pretty penny on a cold plunge. Fortunately, I live currently in the Pacific Northwest, and there are plenty of rivers and other things year-round that I can jump into at will to stimulate cold exposure. So I hope you found this helpful. If you like the content here, be sure to comment and subscribe to the channel, and we'll be talking to you shortly.